I don't necessarily buy into it, although my sister always reminds me when Mercury goes into retrograde. And I don't know if it's my mind now that is saying, oh, well, I hear Mercury's in retrograde, and so clearly things are going to go awry. It's my mind creating that. And so I'm going to let go of the notion that things are going to go awry. I'm going to allow ease and flow and grace, and everything is working perfectly for the remainder of this day. And so it is. And this is rooted in the construct, perhaps, of what I've titled my talk today, which is I can allow myself to be in quantum calm. Just listen to that for a moment. Quantum calm. I'm going to explain what I mean by that phrase, but I want to tie it into the notion of this being the second Sunday of Advent in the Christian liturgical calendar. And I like to take on the themes of Advent each year as guideposts for how I will choose to give my message each year, each of those 4 Sundays prior to the Christmas celebration. The second Sunday of Advent is a day when we acknowledge this idea: peace. Just peace, allowing ourselves to understand and live from the point of view of peace. You know, I talk about the peace candle every single week, and peace is a very significant part of my approach to how spirituality unfolds for me, and it is an important aspect of my approach to the way I choose to live my life. And I have decided in my own life to allow my inner peace to be the point at which I experience the world. So everything in my sphere is reflecting back to me that inner peace that I am. That's a choice that I have made. And I could very easily get lost by looking at things out there that seem contrary to peace and allowing them to override what I inherently know. My inherent knowing is tied into exactly what we talk about with this candle. Peace is an inside job. And if we are seeking the expression of world peace, it's not trying to make it happen out there. It is an invitation for us to allow it to happen right here. Take a breath into that. So Advent, the word Advent comes from the Latin adventus, which means arrival. And so in these weeks, traditionally we're awaiting the arrival of Jesus, right? That is kind of the idea. But I like to think of the idea of what is making its arrival is the spirit, the nature, the allowing of faith, peace, love, and joy, which are the 4 approaches, the 4 themes of those 4 Sundays leading up to Christmas that we offer here in Unity. And they differ slightly from the traditional Christian paradigm. The first Sunday is usually listed as hope. I talked about hope last week, and I think that we all moved into the state of mind that the step beyond hope is truly faith. And that these are not outside qualities, these are innate inner qualities. So let us embrace the active peace that passes understanding. That's my call today to each and every one of us. To embrace that active peace in our hearts, that active peace in our beingness. And our beingness is the divine creative source. For there is no separation from that idea. There is no separation from God. There is only us living the life of the divine. So how do we live as embodiments of peace and magnificence? I say every single week, you are magnificent. We say it to each other, you are magnificent. I am magnificent. How do we live as the embodiment of peace and magnificence? That's a rhetorical question I really want you to think about. How do you approach this in your life every single day? How are you moving forth in your life every single day as the embodiment and light and expression of peace and magnificence? Each and every one of us is empowered to be an instrument of peace. Each and every one of us has the power within that allows us to be an instrument of peace. But there's an interesting thing if you think about that. There's the prayer of St. Francis, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. And what that is not calling us to do is to sit around and just because an instrument is meant to be utilized. It is meant to be active. Instruments are nothing unless they are used. And so if we are calling upon ourselves to be instruments of peace, what we are calling upon ourselves is to be active, not passive. To be active expressions of the light, to be active expressions of the love, to be active expressions in this thing called life. One of the great thinkers in the development of the New Thought philosophy, of course, is Ernest Holmes. And one of my favorite quotes that he offered of all time is this. You're going to be like, yeah, you've said this one before. And I'm going to say it again. One of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. So let me ask you this. If we are seeking peace, what is it we are seeking in the expression of peace? I think sometimes I have looked at the idea of seeking peace within my own self as a way to escape challenge in my life. Or might we engage rooted in peace with the experiences of life, whether we call them challenging or not? Do we seek peace as a way to escape the challenge or to engage in the experiences of life, knowing that there is no challenge except our perception of a challenge? And when we understand that all challenges are perceptions of challenge, we can let go of the perception and live in an activity of peace in our lives. There was a post on Facebook several years ago, and this one of these things that ministers do. We have oodles and oodles of records and notes and things. I've got so many records and notes on my computer, and I came across this, and I do know that it was from a Facebook post probably 5 or 6 years ago. Somebody wrote this. I was told by someone who I respect that studies the energy of things and the healing arts that I only need to keep my vibration high and not be concerned with the negative aspects. That this is all bringing the crap to the surface so that it can be cleared and healed. You agree with that? Keep our vibration high. That's all I need to do. Just keep my vibration high, and it's going to clear all the stuff. There are other words I could use, choice words, but I won't. If I keep my vibration high, it's going to reveal to me all of that stuff, and then it can be cleared and healed. But just keeping the vibration high is not an activity. I mean, it sounds amazing in some ways, but I think in some ways it is a classic spiritual bypass. I only need to keep my vibration high. I've got a high vibration. But vibration that doesn't translate to action creates nothing. I want to say that again. Vibration that doesn't translate to action creates nothing. And true peace flows through action, and it helps us to bridge the gap. I think sometimes what happens is we are afraid of what we might find if we are actually to address, I'm going to use the word, the crap in our lives. Wow, I thought that would get a little bit of a... It was part of that quote, so, If something happens here and we call it detrimental to our well-being, how long is it going to take us to get to the spiritual truth of the idea? When I talk about bridging the gap, when I talk about narrowing the gap, what I'm talking about is being active in spiritual practice to such a degree that it does not take a linear time of X amount to go from here to here, that what we are doing is we are eliminating and we are training our minds, we are training our belief system, we are training our hearts into an immediate understanding of the truth of our being, irrespective of the circumstances, and then actively moving forward from that point of view. That's what I mean when I'm talking about bridging the gap. So true peace flows through action, bridging the gap, and pretty soon you find that it just gets easier and easier and easier and easier, because part of what we're doing is we're training the mind and heart into new habits of being. We've all mastered the time that it takes to go from there to there. So let's work on mastering the elimination of the time, to bridge the gap from the relative to the absolute, to let go of the notion that there's any of it that is not accessible to be addressed in our minds and hearts. Everything is movement and flow. Everything is movement and flow. So there's this there's this theory as part of the quantum physics world, and I seem to be laying into that idea more and more in Sundays, coming back to this idea of quantum physics. I think is what we are seeing that is bridging the gap between science and spirituality. That the spirituality itself is a way that we can understand the nature of life, and quantum physics is supporting some of these ideas that we come up with. So there's this part of quantum physics that's called quantum field theory, and basically the theory is this, that the universe is made up of fields, wave, particle, matter, all of that. It's fields that are in excitation, and where those ripples in the field intersect is what we call form, matter. Okay? At its core, it's all movement. It's all action, and it never ceases. And our directive in mind, our directive in consciousness is what allows those interactions, those ripples in the quantum field to show up as form or matter in our lives. You with me so far? Okay, so the nature of calm is actually movement, not a lack of movement. We can be in the infinite flow, the infinite movement. We can be in the infinite action. Peace itself is not static. It is a dynamic, harmonious movement of spirit as us. There's a lyric in the song. The lyric goes like this: there is a current below that knows where to go, might carry you to peace of mind. There is a current. The current is active. It always knows where to go. It is always available for us to be in the activity of peace. It knows. But boy, we fight that current sometimes, don't we? I do. Peace is an easeful alignment with heart-centered action in the infinite flow. And so how are you choosing to be the activity of peace today? That's what I mean by quantum calm. In the quantum, there is nothing but movement. We could use the word God. In God, there is nothing but movement, because I don't differentiate the two. The quantum field of all possibility is the infinite potential divine energy of all possibility. They're one and the same to me. That's how I choose to approach this thing called life. And if I am in peaceful, easeful alignment with heart-centered action, then irrespective of what's happening in my life, I am always at peace. And the practice of affirmative prayer treatment, which is the form of prayer that we teach in the New Thought movement, and we have many ways of talking about it. So we talk about it as affirmative prayer. On this side of the aisle, they call it spiritual mind treatment, and I like the idea of calling it affirmative prayer treatment. That's my choice. It's a form of prayer that we teach, and it is an active practice, not a passive experience. And for me, I always know that a prayer is answered when it has within me impelled action. The answer to prayer is always created twice. Did you know that, Laura? No? You're the prayer chaplain lead. So she's waiting for me to say what I'm going to say, and then she's going to believe it. The answer to prayer is always created twice. It is always created twice. It is first created in mind, in consciousness, and then it shows up in activity. That's how it is created twice. And so the answer to prayer always begins in our consciousness, in our mind. And then there's an impulse within each and every one of us that invites us into action. This whole notion that when tragedies happen, it drives me crazy. I know it drives so many people crazy. You start seeing thrown out all over social media, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. Without action, none of it means anything. And so the call is for us to engage, yes, in the prayerful consciousness, but allow that to lead us into action, into knowing what is right for us to do in relationship to what we perceive as tragedy. We're in a big world of change right now, aren't we? Did you believe that? Yes, so she believes it. Okay. We are in a big world of activity. There's a lot going on in the world. Somebody asked me today if I was going to address what's happening in Syria. I was not going to, but there is something happening in Syria, a major shift, right? And that major shift is rooted in people, I think, fundamentally, even though they may not language it this way, knowing the truth of their being and acting accordingly. To say, I will not stand for competition. I will not stand for conflict. I will not stand for anything any longer that is not aligned with my idea of being truth, love, peace, joy, harmony, and power. So our prayers, rooted in peace and love and light and life, they point the way, and we are the conduits for the expression of that prayer. It's not enough to just sit there and go, it's all God, it's all good. We must be impelled into action. So prayer is always answered in the infinite. It is always answered in consciousness. Are we willing to activate ourselves as the conduits of that answer becomes the question that I have to ask. Am I willing to activate myself as the conduit for the answer that presents itself when I am engaged in the practice of prayer? Because oftentimes what I'm seeking in prayer is something that I don't think I necessarily know, although the truth is, I do actually know it. Sometimes I just need to be reminded of it. I get to activate myself as a conduit for the answer to the prayer that I seek. So Advent is a season of preparation. It is a season of allowing the arrival of peace, love, joy. And that arrival doesn't just show up on December 25th. Every single day should be a day of Advent, a day where we have the expectation of the arrival of the things we seek, a day where we acknowledge that those things we seek, peace, love, light, harmony, joy, that those things are the impulse to action within each and every one of us, and we're not going to derive it from out there any longer. Because we are in a constant flow, a constant movement. I mentioned in class yesterday that notions of the idea that God is not a noun might come up in today's message. Here's what I believe. God is a verb, and we are each the activity of that verb in expression. And God, as a verb, is a moment-by-moment activity of infinite arrival. And we can participate in it, or we can deny it. We can say, I'm not going to be part of that, but you know what? That's not a life that is fun to me. I don't want to live that life. God is a verb. You are the expression of that verb in form. And so how are you activating your God self today in this thing called life? What is the more productive choice? To just let it all happen out there? To sit there in the high vibration? I got high vibes, man. The world is falling apart around me, but boy, I got high vibes. God is a verb. Action. Action is healing. Action rooted in a consciousness of healing. Inaction may cause festering. Just like if you had think if you had like a wound, a laceration, right? If you do not address that in action, what happens? It can get infected. It can become worse. It is a call to each and every one of us to activate. What will you do today? My response to that Facebook post, I wrote this: the nature of spirit as us is expressed through our circumstances. Our work is to consciously address the circumstances. It all starts in mind, but if it doesn't lead to action in the world of form, then our mental work is fruitless. How are you being in the world today? We are God as a verb. We are action. We are the movement. We are the unfoldment of this divine presence and power. Quantum calm does not imply an absence of energy. It is the practice of active alignment with the infinite energy. It's a ripple, a resonance in the quantum field of infinite possibility. So let us stop waiting passively for peace to descend upon us. Let us participate in the dynamic flow, align with the vibration of peace, and allow that vibe to inspire action, because peace is not static. Just as the quantum field responds to intention and observation, the peace we seek is expressed first in thought and then in our action and activity. We are, each and every one of us, co-creators of peace, and it is a collective responsibility. So ask in every moment, what can I do to express peace here and now? Peace and blessings. You are magnificent. And with that in mind, if you are new to our community, I offer a home practice every week, which is an opportunity to take the ideas that are learned or offered and put them to use in an active way in your life. And so the home practice this week is, here we are. At various points during your day throughout this week, and perhaps throughout the rest of your life, pause and ask yourself, what is one small action I can take to embody peace right now? Allow yourself to hear the answer. Trust the guidance that arises and then act upon it. That's the home practice this week. I invite us all to take a breath. Allowing ourselves to relax right where we are in an acknowledgement of the truth of our being, that we are the presence in the presence, that we are of the presence. There is no separation. There is only this magnificence. And so, with that in mind, if there's a kernel of an idea of something that has resonated today as an infinite truth for you, let that idea be fully present in your mind and heart right now. Simply allowing.
We are the light.
We are the light of love, the light of peace, the light of joy. For there is only one light, one infinite light, the light that is divine. This magnificent creative energy is all that exists, and whether we call it God or the quantum field, it doesn't matter, for it is beyond language. And so I step into the understanding and the feeling of it. I relax in this moment into the sensation of divinity, knowing that it is ever present and it is flowing as each and every one of us. I hold firm in this frame of mind that we are the identity of the divine in form, each and every one of us. The core of us is that. And so, as we move through this thing called life, I know that we are empowered in every moment to be the activity of peace, to be the activity of joy, to be the activity of harmony. And as we are expressing that active nature of the divine, we are creating a more peaceful world. It begins right where each and every one of us is. And so I allow, I trust, I know, and affirm this as so. With gratitude and appreciation overflowing from within, I let it be. And so it is. Amen. You are the light.